Life can often feel like a never-ending struggle. There are moments when we feel completely lost or stuck, as if no matter how hard we try, progress slips through our fingers. We yearn for something more, whether it's success, love, wisdom, or the perfect opportunity, but it feels like we are standing on the edge, watching the world move forward without us. But what if I told you that there's a deeper layer to life's challenges? What if, in the midst of struggle, there are subtle signs, the universe whispering to us, gently guiding us towards something truly transformative? These signs might not be loud or obvious, and most of us miss them. Instead of seeing them as clues leading us toward our destiny, we often mistake them for setbacks or signs of misfortune. In this video, we're going to explore these hidden signs, drawing from Zen and Buddhist teachings to unravel the process of receiving something truly great. You'll learn how the universe uses moments of loss, silence, and struggle to prepare you for the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Once you understand these signals, you'll recognize the opportunity when it arrives, and you'll be ready to embrace it fully. Stay with me as we dive into the profound teachings that will change how you see your struggles and your path. When you understand how to recognize these signs, you will unlock the power of transformation, and your life will begin to shift in ways you never imagined. Let's dive in and discover the subtle clues that the universe is sending you right now. Part 1: The disappearance of the unnecessary. Have you ever found yourself standing in the midst of change, feeling as though everything you once held dear is slipping away? People you trusted, opportunities you worked hard for, even possessions you thought were essential, suddenly they all seem to vanish. It's an unsettling feeling, one that can easily be mistaken for failure or a cruel twist of fate. But what if this feeling of loss is not a sign of misfortune, but rather a necessary part of life's process of transformation? In Zen and Buddhist philosophy, this disappearance of the unnecessary is seen as an essential and natural step in our growth. Just as a tree must shed its old leaves to make room for new ones, we too must release the things, people, and situations that no longer serve us. The process of letting go is not an act of punishment, but rather an act of creation, preparing us for what is to come. It is an invitation to make space for new growth, new opportunities, and new relationships that are more aligned with who we are becoming. The things that disappear from our lives often no longer fit our current path. Relationships that were once close may drift apart, and that's okay. People grow, and sometimes, they grow in different directions. Careers that once felt promising may stall or fade, and that too is part of the journey. It's easy to mourn these losses, to feel that we've been abandoned or that our efforts were wasted. But when we take a step back and shift our perspective, we begin to see that these disappearances are not random or accidental. They are a necessary part of the cycle of life, creating space for something far greater. Think of it this way: when we hold on too tightly to something, whether it's a friendship, a job, or an object, it can block the flow of new opportunities. Life can only give us what we're ready to receive. If we're constantly clinging to what's familiar, we prevent ourselves from experiencing the new and unknown that could bring us closer to our true purpose. Reflecting on my own life, I've had many moments where I felt as though I was losing everything. There were friendships that ended unexpectedly, career paths that didn't lead to where I had hoped, and possessions that seemed to lose their meaning. At first, I resisted these changes. I thought I couldn't live without them. But over time, I came to realize that they were not meant to stay. In fact, they were never meant to be permanent. They were part of the journey, but not the destination. Once I allowed myself to release these attachments, I began to notice new experiences and people entering my life. It was as though the universe had cleared away the clutter to make space for something more meaningful. This process wasn't easy, and at times it was painful, but in retrospect, it was one of the most freeing and necessary steps I could have taken. I learned that life is constantly making room for what is aligned with our destiny, and when we let go of what no longer serves us, we are opening ourselves up to new possibilities. When you experience loss, whether it's the end of a relationship, the closing of a chapter in your career, or even the release of material possessions, it's important to remember that it is not the end. It is simply the beginning of a new phase, one where the universe is clearing the way for something better. Instead of resisting this change, embrace it. Trust that life is making room for what's meant for you. The disappearance of the unnecessary is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of progress. It's a natural part of the cycle of life. Let go, and trust that the universe will fill the space with something better, something more aligned with who you are and where you're going. It's a process of clearing, of preparation, and of growth, one that leads to the life you are truly meant to live. Part 2. Silence and Stillness. After experiencing loss or a major shift in life, it's common to find ourselves entering a phase of deep silence and stillness. It can feel as though the world around us has slowed down, and everything that once felt vibrant and full of possibility now seems muted and empty. In these moments, we may find ourselves questioning if life is moving forward at all. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that nothing is happening, that our lives are stagnant or on pause. But here's the truth: silence is not the same as stagnation. In fact, silence is one of the most powerful spaces for transformation. If we look at nature, some of the most profound changes happen in stillness. Think of the caterpillar, resting in its cocoon. It doesn't struggle, it surrenders to the stillness, allowing its body to transform into something entirely new. Similarly, consider the night before dawn, those quiet moments before the world wakes up, when the air is still, and everything seems to be holding its breath. Yet, despite the silence, change is happening beneath the surface. The dawn is inevitable, it will come. Just like the caterpillar or the night before the day, the stillness after a loss is not an empty void. It is a fertile ground for growth. It is in these quiet spaces that the seeds of transformation are planted. The energy we need for the next phase of our lives is being gathered in the silence. Though it may feel like we are standing still, everything around us is preparing for the next step. We are being shaped and transformed, even if it's not immediately visible. I personally experienced this phase of stillness in my life, and I can tell you it is one of the most challenging yet essential parts of the process. I used to resist it, thinking that I was stuck, that nothing was happening, and I would become frustrated with myself. I wanted to take action, to see progress, but the silence felt suffocating. Yet, in time, I realized that during these quiet moments, I was actually undergoing profound inner shifts. These moments were allowing me to reflect, learn, and prepare myself for what was coming next. What I've come to understand is that silence is not the absence of movement, it is the preparation for the movement that is yet to come. Just as the earth rests before spring, or a seed lies dormant before it sprouts, this quiet time is essential for the growth that follows. It's not a time to force progress but to accept the space for transformation to take place. In these moments, when everything around us seems still, it is important to stop fighting the silence. Our instinct may be to fill the space with noise, to chase after something, to force change. But the truth is, by resisting the silence, we may miss the opportunities for growth that are unfolding right beneath our noses. Instead of seeing stillness as stagnation, we must learn to embrace it as the sacred space where transformation occurs. This is where we begin to gather the strength we need for our next chapter. We reflect on what has passed, learn from it, and prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for what lies ahead. It's a time to listen, not just to the world around us, but to the quiet whispers within. When we finally accept the silence, when we stop rushing toward the next step and allow ourselves to rest, we make room for the change that's about to come. In that stillness, we find clarity. We realize that we are not stuck, but rather in the process of becoming something new. So, if you're finding yourself in a phase of quiet or stillness, don't panic. Don't judge it as a lack of progress. Trust that in this silence, something powerful is being created. When the time is right, the next step will unfold, and you'll be ready to take it. Embrace the stillness as a gift. It is the space where transformation begins. Part 3. Tests of Faith and Patience. When we find ourselves on the verge of receiving something truly great, it often feels like life throws its most challenging tests at us. It's as though the universe decides that before we can step into the blessings waiting for us, we must prove our worth. During these times, we are tested in ways that seem unfair, overwhelming, and downright exhausting. Obstacles appear out of nowhere, doubts creep in, and it can feel like everything is falling apart. The very things we desire seem to slip further from our grasp, leaving us questioning why things are so difficult. In these moments, it's important to remember one crucial truth: these challenges are not a sign that things are going wrong. On the contrary, they are an essential part of the process. In Buddhist teachings, it is often said that the trials we face are not meant to break us, they are meant to prepare us. Just like an archer pulls the bow back before releasing the arrow, life's difficulties create the tension needed to propel us forward. The deeper the pull, the greater the release. The obstacles we face are not hindrances but opportunities for growth, strength, and resilience. I have personally experienced this truth during some of the most difficult periods of my life. There were times when everything seemed to be falling apart, when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of my challenges, unsure if I would ever make it through. In those moments, I wondered if I was on the wrong path or if I was being punished for some unknown reason. But as I look back now, I can see clearly that each struggle I faced, each challenge I overcame, was strengthening me for what was to come. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, puts us through these trials to ensure we are prepared for the abundance, success, or growth that is waiting just around the corner. It's not about punishment, it's about preparation. Much like a tree's roots grow deeper during a storm to anchor itself firmly in the ground, our inner strength grows through adversity. The struggles we face serve to deepen our resolve, sharpen our wisdom, and refine our character, so that when the moment of receiving arrives, we are strong enough to handle it. During my own journey, I often felt like I was running into one obstacle after another. The path was far from easy, and at times, I felt completely lost. But in hindsight, I now understand that each challenge was like a step in a ladder, each one bringing me closer to the version of myself that could handle the opportunities waiting for me. It wasn't about avoiding difficulties but about embracing them with patience and trust. I learned that every time I encountered a setback, it was simply life pushing me to evolve, to expand, and to grow stronger. Patience, in these moments, becomes our most powerful tool. It's easy to get frustrated when things aren't moving as quickly as we would like or when everything seems to be against us. But if we can pause, breathe, and trust the process, we begin to see that each step, each test, is leading us to something greater. The struggle itself is part of the journey. It is the sharpening of our minds and the deepening of our souls. I encourage you to reflect on the times when life has tested you. What challenges have you faced that, in hindsight, were necessary for your growth? What lessons did you learn from the difficulties that now serve you on your path? Instead of seeing your current struggles as obstacles, try to view them as opportunities to build resilience, to strengthen your faith in yourself and the universe, and to prepare for the moment when everything will fall into place. In the end, we all have the strength to endure, even when the road seems impossible. Life's tests are not here to break us, they are here to shape us into the person we need to be in order to receive the abundance that is waiting for us. The more we trust in the process, the more we allow ourselves to be tested, the more prepared we will be when our moment arrives. Part 4: Sudden Intuition and Inner Knowing. After enduring the trials and challenges of life, there often comes a moment when something shifts within us. It's subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but it's there, a quiet certainty that begins to form in the depths of our being. Suddenly, we know, without a doubt, that something significant is on its way. It's not based on external signs or logical reasoning, but a deep, almost inexplicable feeling. It's as though the universe is whispering to us, guiding us toward the next step, even when outward circumstances remain unchanged. This sensation, this inner knowing, is often referred to in Buddhist philosophy as right knowing. It's not something we can force or fabricate, it comes naturally when we are aligned with the flow of life. It's an intuitive wisdom, an understanding that arises from deep within our souls, telling us that everything is falling into place even if the world around us still feels uncertain. In those moments of stillness, when the noise of the outside world quiets down, our inner guidance begins to emerge. This inner knowing is not a loud voice or an overwhelming epiphany. It's a gentle whisper, a quiet sense of certainty that washes over us, reminding us that we are on the right path. It may happen in the middle of a mundane day or in the quiet of the night when we are alone with our thoughts. It's in those moments when we least expect it that we start to feel aligned with something greater than ourselves. I've experienced this deep inner knowing several times in my life, especially during periods of uncertainty or doubt. There have been times when everything around me seemed to be falling apart, when I had no idea what was coming next. But in the midst of that chaos, there was always a quiet peace inside me. It was as if, in my soul, I knew that all the struggles I had faced were leading me to something extraordinary. One of the most profound instances of this inner knowing happened during a particularly challenging phase of my life. On the surface, everything felt uncertain, work was difficult, relationships were strained, and I was unsure of my next step. Yet, despite the confusion and doubt surrounding me, there was this quiet certainty that kept me going. I couldn't explain it, but I knew that something amazing was coming. This feeling wasn't tied to anything specific, it wasn't linked to any material success or a particular outcome. It was a deep, unshakable knowing that the universe had a plan for me, and everything was unfolding exactly as it should. At first, I questioned it. How could I be so certain when everything around me seemed uncertain? But with time, I realized that this was the universe's way of preparing me for the next step. The doubt and fear that once plagued me began to dissipate as I embraced this quiet certainty. It was as if I had tapped into an unseen rhythm, a flow that was guiding me in the right direction. The more I trusted it, the more the pieces of my life started to fall into place. Buddhism teaches us that when we cultivate stillness within ourselves, we allow this intuitive wisdom to arise. We stop forcing things to happen, stop chasing after outcomes, and simply trust in the process. And in doing so, we align ourselves with the flow of life, which often leads us to exactly where we need to be. This sense of certainty, this inner knowing, is not something to be feared or questioned. It is a sign that we are connected to the universe, that we are in tune with the deeper currents of life. When you begin to feel this inner knowing, trust it. Trust that you are on the right path, even if you can't yet see the end of the journey. Trust that the universe is preparing you for something greater, something that is perfectly aligned with your destiny. And know that as long as you listen to this quiet guidance, you will be ready to embrace your moment of receiving when it arrives. In my own experience, this inner knowing has always come just when I needed it most. It's the universe's way of reminding me that I am not alone, that there is a greater plan at work, and that everything I've been through is leading me to something extraordinary. When you start to feel this certainty, even in the midst of uncertainty, trust that your moment of transformation is drawing near. Your soul knows what your mind has yet to understand, and when the time is right, you'll be ready to receive all that has been prepared for you. Part 5. The Final Unexpected Shift. After enduring the trials, silence, and the inner shifts that shape us, there comes a moment, an unexpected twist in the journey. It arrives suddenly, like a breath of fresh air after a long period of stillness. This is the final sign that your moment of receiving has arrived. It could be a new opportunity that seems to appear out of nowhere, a chance encounter that shifts your perspective, or a realization that ties everything together. This is the moment when the door you've been waiting for finally opens, and everything that you've been preparing for aligns perfectly. The beauty of this moment lies in its unexpected nature. After all the struggles, the waiting, and the uncertainty, it often seems too good to be true when it finally arrives. This opportunity might not look exactly as you imagined, but it fits perfectly with the growth, the lessons, and the transformation you've gone through. It's the universe's way of telling you that you're ready, that everything you've endured was worth it, and that the time to step forward has come. However, not everyone recognizes this moment for what it truly is. Many people, exhausted from the challenges they've faced, miss these opportunities. They've spent so much time focusing on what was lost or what hasn't worked, that they fail to see the door that's been opened for them. It's easy to become so caught up in the struggle that we overlook the subtle shifts and unexpected chances that arrive right before us. The exhaustion from fighting battles, the disappointment of unmet expectations, and the fear of repeating past failures can make us blind to the signs of change. But for those who have truly endured the process, the loss, the silence, the tests, and the moments of inner knowing, the final shift will feel natural. It won't feel like a sudden stroke of luck, it will feel like everything has finally aligned. The path will seem clearer, the weight lighter, and the direction certain. All the pieces that once felt disconnected will suddenly fall into place, and you will realize that this moment is not random. It is the culmination of everything you have been preparing for. In my own life, the most significant shifts have always come when I least expected them. These changes often appeared as unexpected opportunities or chance encounters, things I hadn't planned for or even considered. But when I look back, I realize that each one of these moments was the product of all the preparation I had undergone. They were the result of my patience, my willingness to endure the silence, and my trust in the process. It wasn't a fluke or a coincidence, it was life offering me exactly what I needed at the perfect time. One such moment in my life came when I had just about given up on pursuing a particular goal. I had faced rejection after rejection, and the disappointment had begun to wear me down. I was at the point where I started questioning if it was even worth continuing. But then, out of nowhere, an unexpected opportunity presented itself. It wasn't something I had applied for, and it wasn't something I had even considered a possibility. Yet, in that moment, I knew. It was the door I had been waiting for. The universe had offered me the perfect opportunity at the exact right moment. When these unexpected shifts arrive, it's crucial to recognize them for what they truly are: your moment of receiving. The universe isn't asking for you to chase or fight for it anymore. It's simply offering you what you've been prepared for. In these moments, we are often required to take a leap of faith, to trust that we are ready to step into the new chapter that's been prepared for us. And when we do, everything will start to fall into place. So, when the unexpected opportunity or realization comes your way, don't second guess it. Trust that it is exactly what you've been waiting for, even if it doesn't look the way you thought it would. Recognize the shift, embrace it, and step through the door that has opened for you. The time has arrived, and you are finally ready to receive. In conclusion, the path to receiving something great is never as straightforward as we might wish. It is a journey that often requires us to navigate through loss, silence, tests of faith, and inner knowing, culminating in an unexpected shift. Along the way, it's all too easy to mistake these stages for setbacks or failures. After all, who wants to experience loss or endure periods of stillness when we are so eager for change? But in truth, these very stages are not obstacles, they are the conditions that are absolutely necessary for transformation. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, uses these phases to prepare us for the greatness that is about to unfold in our lives. When you find yourself in a phase of loss, silence, or struggle, it's important not to despair. These moments are not signs of failure, but rather signs that you are being carefully prepared for something much greater. When life seems to be taking things away or making you feel stagnant, remember that it's simply making room for what's meant to be yours. The universe is clearing the path, strengthening you from within, and guiding you toward the next phase of your journey. Even if you can't see it yet, know that this period of growth is exactly what you need to fully embrace the abundance that awaits you. As you move forward, it's important to remember that true receiving requires readiness. You cannot receive the greatness meant for you if you are still holding on to fear, doubt, or old attachments. If you are still clinging to what no longer serves you, how can you make space for the new? Letting go doesn't always mean giving up, it means making room for what's coming next. When you release those attachments, when you stop fighting the process and allow yourself to be guided, you prepare yourself for that moment when everything aligns. And when that moment comes, and it will come, embrace it fully, with gratitude and confidence. This is the moment you've been preparing for, whether you realized it or not. The universe has cleared the way for you, and you are now ready to step into the greatness that's been waiting for you all along. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust that this moment is yours to receive. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more insights. Remember, your moment of receiving is near. Prepare yourself for it, and when it arrives, receive it with open arms and an open heart.